We have a very, very, very special guest with us today. His Grace Buddhimanta Prabhu. Hare Krishna Buddhimanta Prabhu, thank you very much for joining us. Buddhimanta Prabhu, as a lot of you know, and some of you may not know who are new to the program, is a very senior devotee in the New Zealand congregation who's spent many years, in fact, longer than I've been born. He spent so many years propagating Srila Prabhupada's message very sincerely and being an inspiration for us all. He has his own wonderful community at Northland, which he's been cultivating for a very long time. And, we all share a very special relationship with him. And as I mentioned, very inspirational, and we have a lot to learn from him and his realizations. So thank you very much. Yeah, and hopefully my father would sort out his issues soon, but I humbly request that you continue with the class. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Krishna Prabhu. I feel very honored to be here, actually. When Ambarish Prabhu asked me to give class, I thought, why is he asking me? Because there's so many very learned scholars amongst your group, and so many people, and I know Ambarish's mood is very much studying Bhagavad Gita, studying Srimad Bhāgavatam, and sharing realizations, and what he's been doing with this group and these classes is really inspirational. So I thought, why is he asking me when I am not really that qualified? But then I thought, well, actually, I'll accept the invitation as an opportunity for me to actually to study more and to prepare, and also as a service to try and to have the association of the devotees here. So forgive me. I'm not a scholar. I'm not a pundit. I don't know a lot of things, but I'll share. I've enjoyed the day anyway, because I spent the day preparing and meditating, or I spent the week actually meditating on this concept of finding strength. The topic that I've been given is finding strength from Bhagavad Gita. So do you usually have sing bhajan or not before, or no?
Yes, if I ever sing a bhajan, that'd be great.
Okay.
You don't have to if you don't want to.
Okay, yeah. I've got quite a lot to cover, so maybe I'll just offer my obeisance to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamaniti Namane Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Vicharani Nirshesha Sunyavadi Paskita Vishatarana Mama Gyan Tamarandasya Gyananjana Shilakaya Chakshu Amalitam Jaina Tasma Shri Guru Bhai Namaha. So I'll just briefly explain or say that after thinking about this question about finding strength from Bhagavad Gita, I came up with some thoughts that actually, why do we need strength is the first thing. What is actually our goal? When we have a goal, a particular purpose, then we accept those. The philosophy is that we accept those things that are favorable to achieving that goal, and we reject those things which are unfavorable to achieve that goal. So we have to clearly define what our goal is, why, and then we can take. Then we need some strength to achieve that goal. And then the other question I have is we need to be strong, but we actually have to feel weak. So there's a dilemma there. Why feeling weak is actually a great benediction for progressing in Krishna consciousness. So there's a duality that we must be strong to propagate our self-realization process, but we also need to feel weak, and I'll explain more about that. We need to be strong and feel weak. So this is a dilemma. And then if we need to be strong, we're obviously in a fight. When you're not fighting, you don't need to be strong. But when you're in a fight, you need to be strong, and you have to know who your enemy is also. So for this reason, we have to identify, if you're in a battle, you have to identify who your enemy is, and you have to find out their strength. And we saw this, this is the whole Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna, he asks Krishna to go into the battlefield. He wants to see his enemy. Who am I fighting, and what is their strength? So we're also in a battle, and I'll go into more of that a little bit later. Who is the enemy that we are fighting, and what are their strengths? And this is why we need to get strength. And so then I'll talk a little bit about what form the strength comes in, and then I'll talk a little bit about what qualities Bhagavad Gita has to give us that strength. So that's an overview of what I'd like to talk about. So initially, we need to establish what our goal is, and I'm sure because you're all sincere and dedicated devotees, you understand what the goal is of a human life. So, anybody want to offer some idea of what our goal is? We're dwelling within a human body. We want peace. We want happiness. We want ultimately we want freedom from suffering. No one will argue with these things. Everybody wants peace, happiness, freedom from suffering, and ultimately we want to re-establish our lost and forgotten relationship with the Supreme Lord. That's our understanding of the goal of human life. So the Bhagavad Gita, I'm going to try and refer to different verses from Bhagavad Gita to support these things. So obviously, the very famous verse, Bhaktaram Yagnatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, in the 5th chapter, verse 29. The sages, knowing me to be the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. So this is a source of strength. This is a source of everybody in the material world is suffering, is confused, is experiencing all sorts of miseries on a daily basis. So you may turn to the Bhagavad Gita and say, why am I suffering? And the answer will be there. You can turn to the Bhagavad Gita. You can use it like a reference book. And this is how I approached this class, actually. I looked up, strength. I looked up the words of weakness and the references that you find. There's so much strength just in one verse. When you actually really read it and meditate on it, you feel clarity, because you're getting knowledge, and you're not just getting some mundane knowledge. This particular knowledge that Bhagavad Gita gives is purifying knowledge. So it's quite different. You can receive knowledge about any topic you like by finding a book written by an authoritative author. If you want to know about engineering, or you want to know about woodworking or playing cricket, you can find a book and you can receive knowledge about that subject. But this particular knowledge from Bhagavad Gita, you get that knowledge about how the world works, about what action is, about who is in control, about what I should do. But as well as that, as well as the intellectual knowledge that you receive, just by actually reading, the process of reading it, whether you understand it or not, you get purification. This is a transcendental occurrence, which is particularly available through the Vedic literatures and through Bhagavad Gita, as it is. So this is a special kind. It's a transcendental knowledge. Fourth chapter of Bhagavad Gita is transcendental knowledge, as opposed to knowledge. Knowledge deals with the intellect. Transcendental knowledge also deals with the actual living being, the soul, and the purification that happens just by reading. I've often heard the idea, or not the idea, I've heard it presented, that the process of becoming Krishna conscious, we know, is hearing and chanting. It's not understanding and chanting. It's hearing. It's submissive hearing. You don't necessarily need to understand. Simply if you read or if you hear, the purification will happen just by associating with Krishna and associating with the pure devotees, Srila Prabhupada. That is the process. By associating with the Supreme Pure, you will become purified. So this is where the concept of gaining strength from Bhagavad Gita is built into the Bhagavad Gita automatically. So peace, happiness, and relief from suffering are our goals, and to reunite and reestablish our loving relationship with Krishna. Those are our primary goals. So knowing that, we need to understand why we need to take shelter of Bhagavad Gita to find the strength to apply the principles so that we can achieve that goal. It's very scientific, it's very systematic. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is the concept of being weak. Now we know that Krishna describes Arjuna's position and his presentations as being due to his weakness. So it's not a bad thing to be weak. Arjuna was weak, and what being weak does, it opens up the door for instruction. It opens up the door for developing qualities of humility and respect. When someone is very strong, whether it's materially or spiritually or financially or whatever way you think, then that opens up the door for pride and for the ego to flourish when someone is very, very strong. So recognizing that we're weak is actually a blessing. So I'm just going to read a few notes that I wrote in that regard. So why is accepting our weakness a good thing in spiritual life? In material life, we advocate and hype out our strengths and hide our weaknesses. So in business or in school, we want to be successful. We want to be seen to be successful. We want to be together. We want to be strong. And whatever weaknesses we have, we don't advertise them. We keep them private. And so that way we can, in some ways, we pretend we don't have them. But in spiritual life, if we feel ourselves weak, then we feel dependent. I can't do this. I need help. Krishna, help me. So it immediately, and then Queen Kunti prays, let these calamities come upon me again and again so that I can always remember you. So if we're not having calamities, if we're strong and we're together and everything is fine, then our tendency is that we think we're the controllers due to my endeavors, due to my intelligence, due to my superior knowledge, due to my wisdom, then I'm successful. And we think that, and we don't remember Krishna. So it's actually a great blessing to be, and this is, it's a great blessing in many ways to feel insignificant and inadequate, and so then we can be dependent, and then we can actually cry for Krishna, which is what we need to do. So according to our weakness, acknowledging our weakness, it becomes a catalyst to make us spiritually strong. As we gain in spiritual strength, we understand to an ever-increasing degree how we are completely dependent on Krishna for everything. So this is the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, that actually Krishna is the supreme controller, the supreme doer, the ultimate refuge, and the maintainer of everything. Haribol. And so while we're strong, then we don't see the need for Krishna. But if we acknowledge that we're weak, then we can depend more fully on Krishna. And that is the proper consciousness that we should have, to understand that Krishna is the provider. Not a blade of grass moves without his will. We are not the doers. These are all messages from Bhagavad Gita that we have to actually apply in our lives. It's not that we just read them. This is the realization I had. You can read a book about cricket, and you can read many books about cricket, but that doesn't mean that you know how to play cricket. You have to actually get out on the field and play, and then that's when you really learn. So you can read Bhagavad Gita every day, and if you read one chapter a day, then over a course of a year you'll read Bhagavad Gita 20 times. So that's a good goal. You can take a vow in Purushottam month to read one chapter of Bhagavad Gita a day, and then over 1 year you've read Bhagavad Gita 20 times. But the realizations will come when you apply the teachings, not just book knowledge. You'll get some purification just from associating with Bhagavad Gita and with Krishna and with Prabhupada. There'll be realization there, but it's when you apply the realizations that the real deep understandings come. For example, we read that that Krishna is the proprietor of everything. Everything belongs to him. Nothing belongs to us. So we have to actually apply that understanding, that instruction, in our consciousness. So we offer our food, but do we offer everything else? Understanding to whom it belongs. Do we offer, when we get new clothes, new shoes, do we offer them? When we get a new car, do we offer it to Krishna? This is the understanding. Everything belongs to Krishna. So that, and that's how we develop Krishna consciousness, being aware of Krishna at all times. So another example is Krishna says that we're not entitled. He says it, I think, I counted it up one time. I think it was either 14 or 16 times in different ways. He says in Bhagavad Gita that we're not entitled to the fruits of our work. I'm sure you know many slokas that support that, where Krishna says that because I am the proprietor of everything, everything belongs to me, then you are not entitled to the fruits of your work. So if we actually apply that, what does that mean? What's the fruits of our work? Some of us will have jobs. If you have a job, put your hand up. Okay, so you get. What is the fruit of your work? Your fruit of your work is your paycheck. That's your fruit. If there was no paycheck, would you go to work? No. So the fruit of your work is your paycheck. You're not entitled to that, according to Krishna. It's not yours. So if we apply the philosophy, really apply it, we understand, okay, what our mentality is we get our paycheck and we go, this is mine, and I'll give something to Krishna. But the actual understanding is, this is Krishna's, and he's giving something to me, for my maintenance. It's a different understanding. So that's an example of where we have to not just read Bhagavad Gita, but apply it in a deep way. So it's all about consciousness. It's all about approach. It's all about the mood. So we get our paycheck and we think this belongs to Krishna. Everything belongs to Krishna. I'm not entitled to the fruits of my work, but Krishna is so kind. He's giving some to me to allow me to maintain my service to him. And this is a loving exchange then. So he gives to us, we give to him, he gives back. A good example is prasadam. He gives us the rain, he gives us the sun, he gives us the earth, he gives us the seed. We don't pay for any of that. That's all given freely with love for us. So we take that, we grow something, and then we take that and we prepare something nice and we offer it to Krishna in a loving exchange. He takes that love and he reciprocates, he offers it back to us in a loving exchange. And then we take that, we offer it to him. He is the fire of digestion. We offer it to him again. And then he takes that fire of that offering to him and he gives it back to us in the form of energy. We eat and we get some energy. We take that energy and we do some service and we offer it back to him. And this is loving exchange. And this is an economy of giving, of love. Okay. So this is something we have to think about when we read Bhagavad Gita. Not just reading, not just studying even, but applying in a deep way. So as we gain in spiritual strength, so our weakness is the catalyst to make us spiritually strong. We have to acknowledge that we can't develop our love for Krishna on our own. We need help. We're dependent. We're dependent upon the Vaishnava devotees. We're dependent upon spiritual master. We're dependent upon Lord Chaitanya, Krishna. We're dependent upon so many things. We can't do it on our own. So as we gain in spiritual strength, we understand that to an ever increasing degree how we're completely dependent on Krishna for everything. So what are some of the weaknesses that we have? Anybody want to share anything that they may consider to be a weakness? Don't be shy.
The unsteadiness of the mind.
Yes. The mind is considered an enemy, a friend or an enemy, but the mind is a weakness which causes us to become distracted, bewildered, and put our time and energy into things that aren't progressive towards our Krishna consciousness. Yeah, so the mind is a weakness. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, I'll read you what I've written. I said some of the weaknesses we have are an attraction to sense enjoyment, or more simply, not seeing Krishna as the enjoyer of everything at all times. So we have an attraction to enjoy. We're not seeing that Krishna is the enjoyer. He says in Bhagavad Gita, he is the enjoyer. And we read that. Now we have to apply that. Krishna is the enjoyer. We're not the enjoyer. So we have an attraction to sense enjoyment, or more simply said, we don't always see that, we don't always acknowledge and apply the fact that Krishna is the only enjoyer. Number two, our reluctance to fully surrender to Krishna, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. We may have an attachment to some fame or position or prestige. We may have a propensity to fault find or criticize. We have a propensity to think that we are in control or that we are the doers. We may have an attachment to money or to women. We may have an uncontrolled mind that presents so many allurements and distractions. We may have an attachment to knowledge for the sake of it. And I've got etc., etc., etc. The list could go on and on and on of so many weaknesses that we have that stop us from fully engaging in Krishna consciousness. So we have to acknowledge our weaknesses and our shortcomings. And if we do not acknowledge them, then we may externally practice Krishna consciousness by chanting and reading and doing service, but we run the risk of simply becoming proud or puffed up, and we'll not be able to fully taste Nam Ruchi. We'll not be able to fully taste the nectar of the holy name. This goes hand in hand with the instructions from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu of Trinada Pisa Nichena Sauro Pisa Hishnana, being humbler than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, and ready to offer all respects to others. Acknowledging our weaknesses and developing a mood of dependency on Krishna goes hand in hand with that verse. Recognizing our fallen natures, not beating ourselves up, but just acknowledging it. Yes, I have material desires. I'm not always thinking of Krishna. I'm not always acknowledging that he's the enjoyer. I'm not always thinking that he's in control of everything. Sometimes I think I am. Acknowledging these things opens up the doors for developing humility, developing tolerance and respect for all. And spiritual life, by recognizing our vulnerability, our weakness, and our total dependency on the mercy of Guru and Gauranga, we attract the mercy of the Lord and his devotees and are qualified for making progress in spiritual life. This acknowledgement of our weakness gives rise to humility, tolerance, and respect to others, and the feeling of needing to cry for the Lord and his mercy. How do we know this to be a fact? I'm saying these things, but we need to support these things with Guru, Sadhu, and Sastra. So how do we know that? By developing a mood of acknowledging our weaknesses and depending on Krishna, that humility, tolerance, and respect will develop. Because the scriptures advise this. We can take, for example, Bhagavad Gita 1866, Sarvadhamam Parityajya Mamikam Saranam Vraja. So as you surrendering to Krishna, he will protect you. Do not fear. Abandon everything. When he says abandon all varieties of religion, he's not talking about Christianity, Muslim, Hindu. He's talking, when he says varieties of religion in this sense is meaning what your values are, what your way of life is, what your culture is, what your way of thinking is. Give it all up and surrender to Krishna. Don't worry. I'll look after you. Don't worry. Just give up everything and just give it all to me. Don't worry. So this is this is his instruction. We read it. Now we have to do it. We also know it from Lord Chaitanya. He advised it also, Trinada Pisa Hishnana, which I've already mentioned. And the previous acharyas advise it in their writings and all their songs. So I have some examples here. I'm going to attempt to sing a few songs, just the first few verses, because the instructions in these bhajans are very, very deep, and they confirm this mood of feeling like of helplessness. This is all a precursor to finding strength in Bhagavad Gita. I'm establishing the idea that we have to acknowledge that we are weak. Then we're motivated to find strength. If we don't understand that we're weak and we're fallen, then there's no incentive to take shelter to find strength. So this Kapihabe Bolo Se Dina Aparada Gucci Suranamaruchi Kripa Bale Habe Hode Sancha. I'll just sing the first verse. The translation: when, oh when will that day be mine? When will you give me your blessings? This is the mood of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He's considering himself very fallen and needing shelter. When, oh when will that day be mine? When will you give me your blessings? Erase all my offenses and give my heart a taste for chanting the holy name in purity. When will I taste the essence of the holy name, feeling myself to be lower than the grass, my heart filled with tolerance? When will I give respect to all others and be free from desire for respect from them? When will I cry out that I have no longer any desire for wealth and followers, poetry and beautiful women, all of which are meant just for bodily pleasure? Oh Gora Hare, give me causeless devotional service to your lotus feet, birth after birth. When will my body be covered with goosebumps and my voice broken with emotion as I pronounce Krishna's name? When will my body change color and my eyes flow with endless tears as I chant? When will I give up the thought of the world and society to run like a madman along the banks of the Ganges in Navadvip, singing and dancing and sincerely calling out the names of Gora and Nityananda? When will Nityananda Prabhu be merciful to me and deliver me from the enchantment of the sense objects? When will he give me the shade of the lotus feet and the right to enter the marketplace of the holy name? When will I buy, borrow, or steal the ecstasies of the holy name? When will I lose myself in the intoxication of the holy name? When will I immerse myself in the nectar of the holy name after grasping the feet of a saint who constantly relishes the flavors of devotion? When will I feel compassion for all living beings? When will I forget my own pleasure and genuine humility? And when will I, Bhaktivinoda, meekly go from door to door, preaching your message of love? So that's a very beautiful song that really exemplifies the mood of a Vaishnav who is crying for Krishna. And this is the point we need to get to. And there is verses that describe that if we're chanting the holy name and we're not crying, then our heart is hard, like concrete. So we need to feel. You can't be artificial. You have to actually feel like that. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur is describing these things. He wrote another song also, which I'm sure you all know, where he describes his fallen position and his need for mercy. This song is called Gopinath. Gopinath, Mama Nevedana Suno, Visayadu Jana Sada Kamarata Kuchunahi Moraguna. Gopinath, Amara Barasa Tumi, Tomara Charane Loino Sarana, Tomara Kinkora Ami. O Gopinath, Lord of the Gopis, please hear my request. I am a wicked materialist, always addicted to worldly desires, and no good qualities do I possess. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. A wicked materialist, he describes himself as. But this sets the mood. This sets the mood for being able to cry and being able to really depend on Krishna. O Gopinath, you are my only hope, and therefore I have taken shelter at your lotus feet. I am now your eternal servant. O Gopinath, how will you purify me? I do not know what devotion is, and my materialistic mind is absorbed in fruitive work. I have fallen into this dark and perilous worldly existence. O Gopinath, everything here is your illusory energy. I have no strength or transcendental knowledge, and this body of mine is not dependent and free from the control of material nature. O Gopinath, this sinner who is weeping and weeping begs for an eternal place at your divine feet. Please give him your mercy. O Gopinath, you are able to do anything, and therefore you have the power to deliver all sinners. Who is there that is more of a sinner than myself? O Gopinath, you are the ocean of mercy. Having come into this phenomenal world, you expand your divine pastimes for the sake of fallen souls. O Gopinath, I am so sinful that although all the demons attained your lotus feet, Bhakti Vinod has remained in worldly existence. So very, very deep, powerful song, bhajan there, and very instructional. He's explaining and presenting the mood of the jiva, of the conditioned soul. And also explaining in the 5th verse that he's weeping and weeping, begging for a place at the lotus feet of Gopinath. So we should take these instructions and really enter that mood as best we can. So I've just got a few more with the time. I've got 10 minutes, no, 15 minutes. So there's a few verses here that I would like to share with you also. I can put them up on the screen, I think. How do I share screen? I can do that. Just give me 1 second.
Sure, you can do it.
Yeah, I can do that. I'll just find the verse, because then you can read along with it. 1 second here.
So sorry. This is all I have left.
Okay. I've lost you. Here we are. And here's the Zoom thing on. Okay. Let's try that now. Oh, you've disabled me. I can't share my screen.
Okay. My father has the not here.
Yep.
What we'll do, made myself and he's made Sridhar Prabhu co-host and Avinash Prabhu as well. So if one of
It's all right.
Prabhu,
yeah, if you can work it out, that's fine. Otherwise, I'll just read it.
if you want, what they can do is that you can give them the verse number and they can put it on their screen, so they'll have the ability to, if you want.
Yes, bro. What is the verse number? Or yeah, if you give it a detail.
We've got Bhagavad Gita 2.3. These are all verses related to weakness. 2.3, 2.7. Yeah, thank you.
Sridhar Prabhu has it on the screen now, I think.
Yep. So this verse here, O son of Prita, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of the heart and arise, O chastiser of the enemy. Param Tapa, chastiser of the enemies. So Krishna refers to Arjuna in 2 different ways here. One is the son of Prita, signifying his Kshatriya lineage, and Param Tapa is also, he's called Param Tapa, the chastiser of the enemies, indicating how he should defeat his weakness of heart. The enemy is the weakness of heart, and Prabhupada speaks quite a bit about weakness of heart. Yes, so it's not, you're in good company to acknowledge you have weakness. Arjuna also has weakness due to Maya. Okay, the next verse is 2.7. Now I'm confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So as far as finding strength from the Bhagavad Gita, if we put ourselves in the position of Arjuna and understand that we are confused, that we have weakness, that we have these material desires, then Arjuna has acknowledged this in the first part of the verse. He's saying, I'm confused. He doesn't know what to do, and he's bewildered, and he's acknowledged that it's because of his weakness. So we can do the same, and then in that condition, we ask Krishna, you tell me what is best for me. Now I'm your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So that mood is what was the mood we should also have. Actually, look, there's a little bit of the purport that I'd like to read. Just the first paragraph, if you could go up a little bit. Yeah. So the first paragraph here, by nature's own way, the complete system of material activities is a source of perplexity for everyone. So that's quite a statement in itself. That the whole material creation is designed in such a way that it's a source of perplexity for everyone. Nobody can actually be happy here. And every step there is perplexity, and therefore it behooves one to approach a bona fide spiritual master who can give one proper guidance for executing the purpose of life. Again, Prabhupada saying that in every step there's perplexity, it's problematic. There's no end to the amount of problems that we all experience on an everyday basis. Things we have to deal with, things we have to battle with, the minds and the senses and other people and material modes, and so many problems, birth, death, old age, disease. There's so many problems that we have to deal with. So the solution here Prabhupada is giving is to approach a bona fide spiritual master who can give one proper guidance so that we can actually execute our purpose of life, which we discussed at the beginning. The purpose of our life is we're wanting peace and happiness and to reestablish our eternal relationship, loving relationship with the Lord. So the spiritual master will give guidance to achieve that goal. All Vedic literatures advise us to approach a bona fide spiritual master to get free from the perplexities of life which happen without our desire. They are like a forest fire that somehow blazes without being set by anyone. We had a nice class from Prabhupada the other day where he was explaining we all want happiness, so we all endeavor for happiness in various ways. We make some arrangements to enjoy life and be happy. Nobody would deny that they want to be happy, and everybody endeavors to be happy. Nobody endeavors to be distressed. No one deliberately takes time out of their lives to make plans to be distressed. But we do take time and effort to try and be happy in various ways. But if we read Bhagavad Gita, we understand happiness and distress come and go like the winter and the summer seasons. Matra spashasta kuntaya. They come and they go of their own accord. We don't have to endeavor to get distress. It comes anyway and it goes. Similarly, we don't have to endeavor to be happy. It comes and it goes. But we don't think like that. We think we're distressed, so we have to endeavor to be happy. We have to make some arrangements. But the happiness that we're going to get, it will come automatically. We don't have to endeavor for that. On that note, I'll just add one other thing. This is an argument I had with, not an argument, a presentation I had with someone I knew who was considering suicide, actually. And I pointed out to them, I said, well, that's something that you don't have to worry about because you're going to die anyway. That's an endeavor you have to make, which you don't have to make. It's already taken care of. That aspect of life, of dying, it's already taken care of. You don't have to do anything. If you just wait long enough, it'll happen. So in the same way, happiness and distress comes and goes. Actually, I can't remember. Yeah. Anyway, I went. So can we go down to that purport a little bit, please? Thank you. So they're like the forest fire that somehow blazes without being set by anyone. Similarly, the world situation is such that perplexities of life automatically appear without our wanting such confusion. Nobody wants fire, and yet it takes place, and we all become perplexed. The Vedic wisdom, therefore, advises that in order to solve the perplexities of life and to understand the science of the solution, one must approach a spiritual master who is in the disciplic succession. A person with a bona fide spiritual master is supposed to know everything. One should not, therefore, remain in material perplexities, but should approach a spiritual master. This is the purport of this verse. Thank you. So yeah, that's this is an example again of how being in acknowledging your weakness becomes a source of spiritual strength. Arjuna acknowledged his weakness and his confusion, and that became the source, the catalyst for the instruction, and it became the catalyst for the purification, and became a catalyst for the knowledge and the ultimate liberation that occurred. But it started with acknowledging his weakness and his and confusion. So I have one other purport of Bhagavad Gita 15:20. This is where Prabhupada talks about weakness of the heart, and it's the 20th verse. Yeah, thank you. So the purport, I'll read the verses. This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, O sinless one, and it is disclosed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. Just scan down a little bit, please. While one is performing devotional service in the association of pure devotees and full Krishna consciousness, there are certain things which require to be vanquished altogether. The most important thing one has to surmount is weakness of the heart. The first fall down is caused by the desire to lord it over material nature. Thus one gives up the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Lord. The second weakness of the heart is that as one increases the propensity to lord it over material nature, he becomes attached to matter and the possession of matter. The problems of material existence are due to these weaknesses of the heart. In this chapter, the first 5 verses describe the process of freeing oneself from these weaknesses of heart, and the rest of the chapter, from the 6th verse through to the end, discuss Purushottam Yoga. So I encourage everybody to actually, study Bhagavad Gita, and not only study it, but to apply the things as best we can in our everyday life. And that's when the real realizations will come, when we actually read and try and practice what we're saying, what we're reading. I'll conclude this part of the presentation on weakness with a quote from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur, which has much beneficial instruction. This is from Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur. We must be in sadhu sangha at every moment. I am weak. Without sadhu sangha, I cannot possibly save myself. If I remain far away from sadhu sangha, then I will fall prey to the ill mentality that I am the master. If we do not live in accordance with the instructions of the sadhu or the guru, then we'll be plunged into great calamity. The moment we are without shelter, Maya will capture us. Consequently, we will roam here and there in this material world as a servant of Maya. Now, these are, again, very powerful instructions that actually strength is found in sadhu sangha. Like sticks. How much time with 5:49? Okay. Like sticks, when they're on their own, they're easily broken, but when they're in a bunch, it's very hard to break. So this sadhu sangha, Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur says, we must be in sadhu sangha at every moment. What does he mean? We can't always be physically and the association of devotees, but we must be mentally connected. We must be thinking about Krishna. We must be thinking about the devotees. We must be thinking about the spiritual master, about serving, about giving, about and we can think about, this is the benefit of reading Bhagavad Gita and associating with Bhagavad Gita, is that we get the intellectual knowledge to be able to defeat our minds. When our senses demand something, we can defeat them with a verse. Contemplating the objects of the senses, attachment develops. Oh, I mustn't dwell on this because I'll become attached. Oh, Krishna is the enjoyer. I'm not the enjoyer. We get knowledge to be able to defeat our mind. And so sadhu sangha is sadhu sangha. You're associating with Prabhupada directly when you read Bhagavad Gita as it is. And so you're getting a double whammy. You're not only getting the words of Krishna directly, the Supreme Lord, the source of everything, the Supreme Mystic. He's giving you his version, the creator of the universe, the creator of this material world. He's giving you the instructions how to live. But not only are you getting the direct words from Krishna, you're also getting the mercy and the compassion and the love from Srila Prabhupada, and the purity of a pure devotee is, that gift is immeasurable. Like so many versions of Bhagavad Gita that don't have that purifying effect. So you're getting a double whammy with reading Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. You're getting the association of Prabhupada and the association of Krishna directly. So Prabhupada instructed his disciples to read for 2 hours a day, every day. I've always felt guilty in my life that I haven't followed that instruction. I don't read 2 hours a day. And why did he give that instruction? Because Maya is very strong. The mind is very strong. The senses are very strong. Material modes are very strong. They're insurmountable. So we need to take shelter of Prabhupada. We need to take shelter of the Mahabhagavat. We need to take shelter of Krishna's instructions to have the strength to be able to fight these enemies. I'm running out of time. I wanted to leave a few minutes for questions.
Prabhuji, we're not out of time. You can take as much time as you want.
Oh, really? There's no class?
I don't think my father's been able to come at the moment because he's got some difficulty. So if you want to take as much time as you want, that's perfectly fine.
Okay. Great. Is everybody okay if I keep going, or? Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
So hang on, I'll just find, there was one other. Okay, so now once we've accepted and acknowledged that we're weak, once we come to that understanding, we also have to recognize who or what are our enemies, or the people or the things which are obstructing and trying to detract us from our progress in Krishna consciousness. Then we can begin to examine suitable sources of strength to combat these enemies. So we have to acknowledge that we're weak, then we have to recognize who are our enemies, and then we have to find what's the source for strength to defeat these enemies. These enemies will prey on our weaknesses and thwart our attempts to progress spiritually. So let's now examine some of the enemies that we have. Okay. Before we do that, there is just one more thing I'd like to read before we go into the enemy side of things. So this idea, there's another verse here. I think it's 4:11. translation is, O son of Prita, do not yield to this degrading impotence. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, O chastiser of the enemy. Oh, that's what we just read. Yeah. So how can we feel the need for Krishna? So we need to have a feeling of dependency and a real heartfelt need for Krishna. In the Western culture, we're all taught to be independent. We're all taught to be, independent, to be strong, to stand on your own feet and look after yourself. No one's going to look after you. You have to look after yourself. This is our culture in the West. But we need to develop a consciousness where we're feeling dependent on Krishna for everything. So how can we feel that need for Krishna? If we love someone, we naturally long for them. If you love a family member, you long to be with them. But what can we do if we don't actually feel love for Krishna? How can we develop that? So acknowledging our weakness, if we acknowledge our weakness before him, that's a start. By such honest admission, it forces us to realize that we cannot do without Krishna. We feel urgently, fervently, and desperately, Krishna, I need you. This need impels us to seek his grace, to call out to him in chanting, to reach out for his helping hand through humble service. The Bhagavad Gita 4:11, that's Yayatamam prapadyante, tam sataiva bhajamyam ama manuvartante manushya patasavashaha. It explains that it indicates that Krishna bestows his mercy in proportion to the intensity of our plea. I'll read it again. Krishna bestows his mercy in proportion to our intensity of our plea. This is why earlier I was saying we need to be able to cry for Krishna. When we're fervently and urgently crying and needing and depending on Krishna, he will reciprocate accordingly, just like a child. When a child is crying and needing his parent, many of you ladies here have got children, you understand when a child is crying, you can't ignore it. When they're crying from their heart, they need you, they need their mother, you respond. When they're half pie crying, you can ignore that. Is that right? When they're pretending that they want you, but they want you, they don't need you. It's different, right? A mother, they know the cry of the child. When they're really in pain, you're there straight away. Is that right? Yeah. So Krishna is the same. When we're chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. That's okay. We're chanting his name, and he hears that, he sees the endeavor. But when we're chanting with feeling from our heart and with a mood of full dependency, then he reciprocates accordingly. He comes straight away. So this is what we're trying to get to that point. So Krishna bestows his mercy in proportion to intensity of our plea, just like, and he says that in the 4th chapter, all of them, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. As they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects. When we feel the need for him and seek him sincerely, he reciprocates by manifesting his fulfilling presence in our heart, resulting in a strength empowers us to resist and reject worldly temptations. Thus, our weaknesses make us strong. So this is the whole point of my class here, is that acknowledging our weakness it becomes our source of strength. Right at the beginning of the class, I said we need to be strong and feel weak. So this is something to think about. We want to be strong in our Krishna consciousness and not fall prey to Maya. But to do that, we have to cultivate a mood of weakness and dependency on Krishna. Okay, so I'll move into. I'll just try and find this. Some of our enemies that we have. Some of them we talked about before. Was our mind and our senses. They can be distracting and bewildering. And another enemy that I'd like to talk about. And can we just can we not have this screen? Sorry, if we can clear that. That's Bhagavad Gita verse there. Thank you. Just another. Just a second. Just something up here. Okay, so some of our enemies, I'll just quickly give you some ideas of some of the enemies and there's direct verses in Bhagavad Gita which defeat these enemies. So there is, this is why we need Bhagavad Gita to have the strength to fight these off. One is the mind, Bhagavad Gita 6.5. Urarad atmanat manam natmanam avasadayat atmaiv yatmano bandur atmaiva ripur atmana. A man must elevate himself by his own mind, not degrade himself. The mind is the. I've lost my. It's okay, Prabhu. I'll just quickly read these through. I can't actually. I haven't got. I need that. I need to get back into my email to. Thank you. Yeah, a man must elevate himself by his own mind, not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. So Krishna is describing the mind to be an enemy. And why is he an enemy? Because he distracts us from becoming Krishna conscious. The senses are an enemy. Bhagavad Gita 3.34, attraction and repulsion for sense objects are felt by embodied beings, but one should not fall under the control of the senses and sense objects because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. So again, attraction and repulsion for sense objects. We feel them, but one should not fall under their control because they are stumbling blocks. So this is another enemy which we have to deal with. The modes of nature and their material influence are another one. This divine energy of mind consisting of the three modes of material nature is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So again, pointing out one of the stumbling blocks is not falling prey to the modes of passion and ignorance, and even the mode of goodness is a problem. But he gives a solution. How you can cross beyond it is by surrendering unto me. Another enemy which we have is lust, or desiring to enjoy separately from Krishna. Thank you very much. The verse Bhagavad Gita is 3:37. Kama esha krodha esha rajaguna samudava manasano mahapatma vidyinam eha vayanam. The Blessed Lord said, it is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material modes of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. Purport, when a living entity comes in contact with the material creation, his eternal love for Krishna is transformed into lust. in association with the mode of passion. Or in other words, the sense of love of God becomes transformed into lust as milk is contact with sour tamarind is transformed into yogurt. Then again, when lust is unsatisfied, it turns into wrath. Wrath is transformed into illusion, and illusion continues the material existence. Therefore, lust is the greatest enemy of the living entity, and it is lust only which induces the pure living entity to remain entangled in the material world. Wrath is the manifestation of the mode of goodness. Wrath is the manifestation of the mode of ignorance. These modes exhibit themselves as wrath and other corollaries. If therefore the modes of passion, instead of being degraded into the modes of ignorance, are elevated to the modes of goodness by the prescribed method of living and acting, then one can be saved from the degradation of wrath by spiritual attachment. There's a lot I could speak about there, but I'll keep moving. The modes of nature are very, very powerful, and lust is a manifestation of the mode of ignorance. So, manifestation. Wrath is the manifestation mode of ignorance. Lust is the manifestation mode of passion. So the mode of passion can be purified and elevated to become to the mode of goodness, or it can be further degraded into the mode of ignorance. So we see that all the time in modern life, that things are mostly degraded from passion into ignorance, and occasionally you see some endeavor where the mode of passion is transformed into the mode of goodness through purificatory activities and austerities. This is something I've been thinking about a lot. One of our greatest enemies, actually, is impersonalism and voidism. And this is something that Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati and Thakur and Srila Prabhupada were very, very strongly preaching against impersonalism. And we experience this impersonalism. It's rampant in modern society, and it's becoming more and more prevalent. We've all noticed if we ring a government department, it's practically impossible to speak to a person. There's machines, there's answer machines. You have to wait for hours, or a telecommunications company their whole business is communications, but it seems like it takes hours to actually get to speak to someone. They prefer you to do it online. They prefer you to do it through a machine, push the button 3 or 4, or go to this one, go to that one. This is a symptom of the impersonalism of modern life. And the fact that nobody writes letters to anybody anymore, it's all nobody really. Anyway, there's many examples of how impersonalism has actually become the norm in modern life, and we really have to be diligent to fight against it. It seeps into our own lives, and it seeps into our own dealings with each other. And it's something I've become very aware of lately, that impersonalism, you're not even aware of it, but it's just in the way that we deal with each other. It's in the way that we communicate with each other. And we have to make a big endeavor to actually keep that out of our lives, because it actually ruins the creeper of devotion, the bhakti. So I have a quote here from Srila Prabhupada. It was a letter he wrote to Bhagavan in 1970. And he says, yes, we are fighting impersonalism and voidism with pure devotional service. Impersonalism and voidism kills the natural aptitude of devotion, which is lying dormant in everyone's heart. Therefore, we are printing books like our Krishna book so that people may know that the supreme absolute truth is a person. The perfection of every living creature is to render transcendental loving service to that supreme person, and thereby go back home, back to Godhead. So that's a very powerful statement. And he's saying we are fighting impersonalism and voidism. What with? With pure devotional service. And we're teaching people that the supreme absolute truth is a person by printing and distributing these books like Krishna book, Bhagavad Gita. And the other thing that I found was really powerful was that he says impersonalism and voidism kills the natural aptitude of devotion, which is lying dormant in everyone's heart. So all living entities, as we know, are part and parcel of Krishna, and they all have an eternal loving relationship with him. And our mission, Lord Chaitanya's mission, is to encourage the living entities to re-establish that loving relationship. But that natural aptitude for devotion to God is killed by impersonalism. So we have to be diligently on guard for this. We have to be diligently looking at our own lives and our own way that we deal with things, and trying to recognize if something is impersonal and trying to rectify that by being personal. Personal means caring. It means taking an interest in others. It means giving. This is personalism, and so much of our lives is revolved around ourself. So that's also a symptom of impersonalism. Okay, so I'll carry on. I've got a few more enemies. There's plenty of enemies that we're trying to fight against. We've got the mind, the senses, the modes of material nature. We've got lust. We've got impersonalism. We've got fear. Fear is also an enemy. Bhagavad Gita 4:10, being freed from attachment, fear and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past become purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attain transcendental love for me. So all these verses are there to give us strength. This is the whole, the subject matter of this class is finding strength in Bhagavad Gita. So we have these enemies which are causing us problems in our Krishna consciousness. We may have elements of impersonalism. We may have, degrees of attachments or our uncontrolled senses, and we may have some fears. But by reading Bhagavad Gita, Krishna addresses all these things, and ultimately he says, Sarvadhamam parityaja, he says, abandon all varieties and surrender to me. I'll protect you. Do not fear. So there's no need to fear if we surrender to Krishna. There's nothing to worry about. And of course, Srila Prabhupada was the personification of that. He was fearless. There's a couple of other things I've got here. Just two more enemies. I could have had a lot more, but I've got Rakshasas and demons as an enemies. Of course, Lord Ram had Ravan, Krishna had Kamsa, and so many other demons. So many demons he defeated. We also have our Rakshasas and our demons that are controlling our lives. Their influence is controlling our lives, and this actually affects our ability to practice Krishna consciousness. Just like the Brahmanas and the sages, the demons would come and disrupt their fire yagnas, and it was a problem. It was disturbing. They were tolerant and they were peaceful, but when they had people, when they had demons passing stool and urine on their fire yagnas and ruining everything, it was problematic. It was disrupting. So I have a quote here from Srimad Bhāgavatam, 7th canto, 3rd chapter, text 13. This is a quote from Prabhupada in the purport. He says, at the present, especially on this planet Earth, the influence of Lord Brahma has decreased considerably, and the representatives of Hiranyakashipu, the Rakshasas, man-eaters, and demons have taken charge. Therefore, there is no protection of Brahminical culture and cows, which are the basic prerequisites for all kinds of good fortune. This age is very dangerous because society is being managed by demons and Rakshasas. Okay, I won't go too much into that, but if you accept that Srila Prabhupada is a pure devotee and that everything he says is the truth, and there's no reason for him for him to say anything that wasn't true, then we have to accept this as being the truth, that this planet is under the influence and being run by Rakshasas. It's not a fanciful idea, it's or some mythological thing. There's all different types of living beings, and this particular planet at this particular time is being run and is under the control of these demonic type people Prabhupada said this age is very dangerous because society is being managed by demons and rakshasas. That's very clear. So this is another enemy which we can take shelter of Bhagavad Gita to understand how to deal with these influences, and become strong in our Krishna consciousness, so that we're not affected by the workings of these influences. The last one I want to bring up is becoming entangled in material life. Bhagavad Gita 5.7. One who works in devotion, who is a pure soul, and who controls his mind and senses, is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. So if we feel that we're getting entangled in material life, here's the solution. Work in devotion, control your mind and senses. That way you can work, but you're never entangled. So I will just move back to here. So yeah, that's probably about it from me. I think overall, to summarize, I'd like to just thank you all very much for your attention. I've spoken for quite a long time, and like I say, I'm not much of a scholar or a pundit. I really enjoyed the process of preparing the class, so it was beneficial for me, and I hope you got some inspiration or some motivation to really take shelter of Krishna, to take shelter of Bhagavad Gita, and also to really appreciate and take shelter of the sangha you have here. It's a very special thing that you're all doing, is getting together like this and hearing Krishna Katha. This is where you get your strength to defeat all these demons and these enemies that are trying to stop us from becoming Krishna conscious. I didn't put Maya in there as an enemy because she's actually our friend. She's there to strengthen our Krishna consciousness. She tests us. All right. So yeah, I would summarize by saying, acknowledge where we're at. Be honest with where we're at with our Krishna consciousness. If we're not fully absorbed with Krishna 24 hours a day, then we have some weakness. We have some anarchas. We have some attachments that we need to purify. And if we're not crying for Krishna, calling out in full dependency and love, then we have also some work to do to develop that love. So take shelter of Bhagavad Gita, read as much as we can, apply the teachings as much as we can, really deeply think about it. Do you know what there are two main lessons, or the first two lessons of Bhagavad Gita deal with ego. They deal with I and mine. Who am I? And what belongs to me? So there's many verses in the second chapter explaining who I am. Najayate Mriyate Bhakatachin. In the second chapter, text, what is it? Text. Anyway, that verse explaining, for the soul there is never birth nor death. Having once been, he will always be. It's unborn, eternal. So this establishes who we are. So for people that are confused as to who I am, they get strength and understanding from Bhagavad Gita. I'm an eternal spirit soul. Next thing to understand is, so this defeats the ego of I am this, I am that. The next thing of the ego is, this is mine, this belongs to me. So this is defeated as well. In the fourth chapter, the understanding of mine, Krishna establishes that everything belongs to me. Nothing belongs to you. So I and mine are the aspects of ego. and they are clarified. And this is what drives us to do so many things. This concept of I and mine, I am this and this, I want this and this is mine and this is like that, that drives us and motivates us in our life. But Krishna right from the start clarifies who I is and what mine is. So yeah, anyone who reads Bhagavad Gita will get some benefit, but the more we actually read it amongst devotees to help us understand it, and the more we read it with a mood of submission and surrender and dependency, and the more we apply it in our lives, that's when the real transformation comes. And that's where the real ruchi comes, the taste for Krishna consciousness, the taste for hearing Krishna's name, the taste for serving devotees, and the taste for serving Krishna comes from applying the teachings with the right mood of humility and tolerance and respect and surrender. All right, thank you very much. Does anyone have any comments or corrections or anything they'd like to say or add? Thank you for all staying awake while I was talking.
Thank you, Buddha. Thank you,
Very nice.
Buddha.
Thank you very much. And a lot of things got covered. And I did not realize so many of the weaknesses and enemies that I had. So thank you for pointing them.
Yeah, we're all in the same boat. We all have these things, and we all have to help and support each other.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was very, very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hopefully, I'll get the opportunity to do the service again sometime.
Yes, probably, definitely. And we'll also get the opportunity to have your association. Thank you very much.
Well, hopefully, we've just been organising our Rath Yatra festival in January. So hopefully you can all come for that. It's always nice to serve you all.
Yes.
For Jagannath, come for Jagannath.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have any questions or comments or realizations? Something I said that maybe wasn't right, or something I said that made you think about something?
Avinash Prabhu, did you want to say something?
Pardon?
Sorry, I think Avinash Prabhu wanted to say something as well.
Yeah, sure.
Hare Krishna, Buddhimanta Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
As Purna Pragna Mataji said, you have covered so many points and we never realize weaknesses. You are so right. Even when you were talking about 2.7, Karpana Dosha, so Arjuna realized his weakness, not Duryodhana. Duryodhana was counting his strength, what I have got and how I can defeat. But I never thought like this. Right? Yeah, that's why actually Krishna was preaching Arjuna, not Duryodhana, because he wanted it. The other thing sorry, Prabhu.
Duryodhana wouldn't listen.
Yes. Because he was thinking that he's not weak, he's strong. And the other thing, Prabhu, very nicely covered so many things and so many verses from Bhagavad Gita. Are they not the energies of Krishna's? And those energies actually get activated by some desire, something like this, and all those energies actually being Krishna's energies. So how I should say that? So those energies actually, they belong to Krishna. So they're also actually a kind of spiritual energy.
Yeah. Krishna is the source of all material and spiritual energies. Everything comes from Krishna.
Yes, and yeah, as you said, all those energies, start working based on our own desire, what we actually want.
Mhm.
The last, as you said, Prabhu.
Yeah, Krishna reciprocates.
Krishna reciprocates through his energy.
Yeah. So in one sense, sorry.
Kiran Prabhu, I want your opinion on this. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, I mean, this is when I was making this, preparing and listing these weaknesses and also listing the enemies. Ultimately, all these things are coming from Krishna, and they're ultimately all meant for our benefit. So the blocks or the anartas that we may have, having them presented to us, then it's our choice if we want to do the penance, do the mahi, do the work required to purify them or not. Okay, so we have our independence and our free will, but ultimately they're meant for our benefit. So because Krishna wants us to be reunited in full consciousness with him. So he arranges these things so that we can make spiritual progress. So yeah, I mean, is that I'm not sure if I quite understood the question, that all these weaknesses and enemies which are causing us to not perhaps fully absorb ourselves in Krishna consciousness, they're all actually energies of Krishna. They're all coming from Krishna. There's nothing outside of the energy of Krishna. So, and because Krishna is all loving, he has no malice or no bitterness or no desire to cause suffering for anyone. So we can only assume that all these things that happen are ultimately for our benefit. Like the story of the king and the servant he would always say, everything that Krishna does is okay. And whenever he was asked something, everything that Krishna does is okay. You know the story, right? So then the king lost his finger and got a cut on his finger, and his servant said, everything that Krishna does is okay. And the king became angry and sent him to prison. So you're nonsense. And then he went hunting with another servant, and then they got ambushed by some Kali worshippers wanting to sacrifice him. But then when they caught him, of course, they couldn't use him because he was imperfect and his finger was cut. So then when he came back, he understood that actually everything Krishna does is okay, because if I'd had my finger, then I would have been sacrificed. And also the servant, he also understood, well, if I'd gone with him, I would have got caught, but now I've been in prison, so I'm safe. So everything that happens to us and everything that comes up to us, we can see it as an obstacle or a problem, or we can view it as an opportunity to surrender or an opportunity to further, to put the philosophy of Krishna consciousness into practice. So when there is no obstacle, it remains as a philosophy, as an idea, as a concept. But when there is an opportunity, we need to actually apply this philosophy now. So that, for example, Queen Kunti, when she had so many problems and challenges, I mean, you can imagine as a solo mother with 5 children, with no kingdom, no home, and being harassed by the other, the cousin family, trying to kill your family, she would have had great reason to be angry and to be upset with Krishna. Why are you not protecting us? We've got nothing, we're supposed to be your friends. You have everything and we have nothing, and you're not looking after us. She could think like that, but that she saw the problems and the obstacles and the not as problems, but there's opportunities to surrender further, and opportunity to actually go deeper into her dependency. So we can be like that too. When there's obstacles or challenges in our lives, we can view them as opportunities to surrender further, to go deeper in our dependency. When everything is taken away from us, what do? We get upset. We go, oh my God, I've got nothing. Everything's gone. My job's gone. My house is gone. My health is going. So devotees, they will depend on Krishna now. They won't. They'll go deeper into their, because ultimately, in the end, that's all that matters. In the end, your relationship with the Supreme Lord is the only reality. Everything else is temporary. Everything else is illusory, because it's temporary. It won't last, but that will last. Your relationship with Krishna will last. So.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Buddhimanta Prabhu. I'm aware that your time has also been extended as well. I do have a question, but I was just wondering if anyone else has a question they can ask now. Okay. First of all, thank you very much, Prabhuji, for your very nice class. And I can certainly attest to the fact that all of us have learnt a lot from what your discussion was on finding strength in Bhagavad Gita. I particularly enjoy listening to your classes because you've got so much personal experience in preaching yourself. So, as you mentioned, to apply the philosophy is important. And it's very easy to, give realizations without actually having lived it or having practiced it yourself. So that's why I enjoy listening to classes, because I can tell that you've also internalized and experienced these things yourself. And that's why you're sharing it with all of us. So thank you, Prabhu. My question is that obviously you've been doing a lot of preaching work for a very long time. In terms of, as you mentioned, about understanding your weaknesses and understanding your enemies, and obviously understanding that Krishna is the proprietor of everything after all, in the end. When you do all these preaching activities and you've seen a lot of success yourself in the activities, whether it be prasadam distribution, whether it be the cultivation of congregation, etc. So for yourself, was it I guess what I'm trying to say is, how were you able to integrate that understanding that, Krishna is a proprietor of everything in your preaching, and do it for such a long period of time? Was it ever a challenge for you to understand that and understand your weaknesses and your enemies as well? Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. It's a very nice question. And yeah, I won't say that it hasn't been challenging. When we first started Food for Life, it was easy to be dependent because we had nothing. So we didn't have tables, we didn't have chairs, we had one pot. We would cook the rice, clean the pot, cook the sabji, clean the pot, cook the halava. We must have boiled the water in a jug or something. I don't know. We only had one pot, I remember. And because we had nothing, we didn't have a fridge. We had to go and beg for everything and ask. That mood of dependency was very sweet. And I've experienced that also with Padayatra, when we walked from top of New Zealand 10 days down the coast, a group of devotees just chanting, and we didn't know where we would stay. We didn't know every day what we would eat, like that. But we depended on Krishna. And every day something would happen. Someone would invite us to stay. Someone would say, you can stay here, here's some food, like that. So there's something very, very sweet about being fully dependent. They say that it's easier for brahmanas to be in that space where they will be fully dependent on Krishna. Kshatriyas, they like to, take care of themselves and their families. Vaishyas, they like to actually take care of a wider community. And Sudras don't really think about it much. But as Food for Life got more and more established, and we became financially secure, then that mood of dependency changed. And instead of relying on what Krishna would send, we would just go and buy what we needed. Okay, so that when you ask about challenges, that's actually a challenge, to keep that mood, that sweet mood of dependency when things are successful. I remember one time we were in the early times, we were preparing the meal for the next day. We were cleaning, and then thinking, what should we cook tomorrow? And we went to the pantry, and we thought, we'll do some rice and some chickpeas. There was no rice, we'd run out. There was no chickpeas, we'd run out. We had no money. And we thought, well, what are we going to cook tomorrow for Food for Life? We've got people coming. But anyway, we'll see what happens. And then there was a knock on the door. And we went to the door and said, actually, we're closed today. We're just cleaning. He said, no, I've just got some food. I was wondering whether you'd want it. And we said, okay, what have you got? And they said, well, I've got a bucket of, I've got some chickpeas. I said, okay, very good. So she brought the chickpeas, and then it was a 20-liter bucket of chickpeas. And I thought, wow. I said, do you want your bucket back? And she said, oh no, you can keep that. I thought, because we had no storage facilities either. We had nothing. So then she said, actually, I've got some rice also. Would you like some rice? And I said, yeah, sure. She said, so she goes back, she's got 2 20-liter buckets of rice, basmati rice. So I said, how come you have so much of these ingredients? She said, my mother, she was thinking the world was going to end, and she stored up these things. And she said, I was cleaning the house, and I was going to take them to Salvation Army, and I was driving, and then suddenly something said, go to that new Hare Krishna place. They may need some food. So that's Super Soul. Super Soul in the heart directed her to come to us. And so when those sort of things happen, you get direct realization that Krishna is in control. He is within the heart of every living being, and he's guiding and directing the traffic. He's literally, he was directing her to come with the ingredients that we need. And I've experienced similar sort of things many, many times. One time I said, we've been going maybe 1 year or something. I said, we get a lot of vegetables donated, but we hardly get any fruit. We're not getting much fruit. The next day, we got like 6 boxes of apples and 3 boxes of pears, and like so much fruit we couldn't process it all. We were like, now you have to be careful what you desire, because Krishna will fulfill. So so I guess the challenge is really, especially when things become successful, is maintaining that mood of dependency on Krishna. And the greatest example is Srila Prabhupada, so successful in such a short amount of time. I was thinking the other day, we've been here for 10 years. What have we done? We've got a Food for Life, we've maintained, we've got a Ratha Yatra, we've made some devotees. But Prabhupada, in 10 years, what did he do? My God. It's like so insignificant what we've achieved here. but Prabhupada never became, he always had that mood, no matter how many temples he had, or how many devotees he had, or how many, books were being distributed. He always remained that completely mood of, I'm insignificant, I'm totally dependent upon the mercy of the Lord. So, and because of that, he became more and more successful. So it's a catch-22. There's another interesting little story related to that, is that after we've been doing Food for Life for 1 year, we decided to do lunch in schools program, feeding kids in schools. So I went to one school. I've been going along to meetings and trying to figure out how we could do it, and working with other groups, and meeting after meeting after meeting where they talked and talked. Oh, the kids are hungry. What should we do? And I would put up my hand and say, oh, we'll feed them. Oh, we need to do some more research, and we need to do some more papers. And every meeting I got frustrated. And so I walked out of one meeting, and I just went round to one school, and I said, do you want your children to have a hot lunch every week? She said, yes, we do. That would be great. When can you start? I said, we'll start next week. She says, great. I said, how many kids are in the school? She says, 220 kids. I said, okay. So then I went, I committed to doing it every week for one term. And then on the way back from there, I realized, oh my God, what have I done? We've got, at that point, we had $400 in the bank. That's all we had. And feeding 220 kids was going to cost $400. And so I thought, I can do this for 1 week, but then what? Before I parked the van, and before I walked into Food for Life, a man approached me, and he said, oh, I hear you're starting to feed our children in schools now. And I said, yeah, we just met a school today and we're starting. And then he gave me a check. Of course, these days checks aren't worth anything. But anyway, he gave me a check, and he had already pre-written it out, $1,000, right? So he'd already written out to Food for Life, gave me $1,000, and I saw that as a direct confirmation from Krishna. Again, another direct sort of support to say, yes, I see what you're doing. I'm here. I'm helping. I'll support. You don't worry. Don't fear. Surrender to me. Don't fear. So then, that was a great bonus of support. But then, at the end of this was the last term in 2010, last school term. So we started with that one school, 200 children for 10 weeks. So that's 2,200 meals at an average cost of $2. So it cost $4,400. We had $400 when we started. The man gave $1,000. By the end of the term, we had $4,000 in the bank. So it's a completely mysterious economic model. From an economic point of view, you're saying you're giving something away, but your bank balance goes up. How does that work economically? When the model we have is you have something, you sell it for profit, then your bank balance goes up, right? That's the model we have. But the Krishna conscious model is that we depend on Krishna, we give Krishna to others, and then all our needs are taken care of. So I've had direct realization of the truth of that if you give Krishna to others, if you surrender to Krishna and you give Krishna to others, you'll never lose. You'll never be without. And I've experienced right from then that the more you give, the more you receive. It's a simple economic truth. And even economically, the more prasadam we distribute, the more our bank balance goes up. It's that simple. It doesn't make sense economically, but that's what I've experienced. The more you give away, the more your bank balance goes up. I also experienced this when I had cows and I was looking after cows. I had a business in Kerikeri, at a shop. And whenever I would go and do something for the cows, feed them something, or go and spend some time with them, or talk to them, sing to them. The day at the shop was always the best day. Even if sales had been down, I'd spend a morning with the cows, go to the shop. It was the best day of the month. Always like that, every time. So these are mysterious, mystical truths that only devotees can understand. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question entirely, but I hope that's something. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. That definitely answers my question. There's some extremely wonderful and mysterious experiences. That's very nice. That's very inspirational. I'm sure for a lot of us, those stories, that the dependence on Krishna leads to miracles, really.
It does. It's hard because we're conditioned to thinking we are the doers, and unless I do this, and unless I use my intelligence to manipulate the material energy to get this result, how else is it going to happen? You know, I have to use my intelligence to manipulate the material energy to get the result that I want. That's our conditioned thinking. Whereas actually we don't, this I'm saying, apply Bhagavad Gita. Who's in charge of the material energy? Not us. We don't control the material energy. Krishna does. Daivi Hayashi Gunamaya. He's the controller of the material energy. So if we surrender to him and leave it to him, I find more and more I'm realizing the more I can keep out of the way, keep out of, like when there's a project on, keep out of the way, you know, like, and just let Krishna work through me. Be a you know, be a servant, be whatever Krishna wants. He can use my body for that. I don't care. That then things become very successful. Yeah, it's hard because we want to be controllers, basically. We've been experiencing this with the festivals we've been having up here lately. We've had Lord Ram's appearance day and Sringadev's appearance day and Gaur Purnim, and usually one or two people organize it, right? They organize who's doing the feast, what the feast is going to be, who's giving the class, who's giving the kirtan, you know, who's doing the decorating, what's the program going to be. One or two people will organize it and do like that. But these last three festivals, our yatra, no one's taken the lead. No one has been organizing. No one has taken the lead at all, which is really, really scary, because you've got a festival and you've got people coming, and I mean, and normally it's been me who's taken the lead to say, okay, what's happening? But I'm stepping back. I'm saying, Krishna will inspire people to do what they. And then, I mean, I turned up to the last festival. I didn't know who was cooking the feast, if there was even going to be a feast. I was like, I'm staying detached. I'm staying out of it. But someone cooked the feast, and it was a beautiful feast. Someone gave the class. We had a drama. We had and we, you know, everyone did what they were inspired to do. There was no coordination though, which is, I'm not advocating that, because we've realized we do need to have coordination, and we do need to have some kind of committee that organizes it all. But my point is that actually by stepping back and just being an instrument of Krishna, and being everyone being allowed to do what they spontaneously feel they need to do to serve the Lord, Krishna will make all the arrangements for wonderful things to happen. Yeah, it's hard to step back though from that idea that we're controllers and doers. But that's that's something I'm working on. Okay, but I think I need to go.
Okay,
Yeah.
no problem. Sweet.
My family's been very tolerant. They've been very quiet, and because the computers in the lounge, so the kids have been very good. So I need to go.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, once again for your very nice class. And as I said, I'm sure all of us have learned quite a lot from you today. Thank you for going so much in depth as well with all the verses. It was very, very nice. And yeah, we hope to have your association soon as well.
I'm very grateful to have all your association, actually. It's very nice to have you all sincere and serious devotees, to have some time with them, with you all.
Father couldn't be here. He's having a bit of technical issues. He's in India at the moment.
Yeah, Ed.
Bit of like connection issues there and stuff. So yeah, unfortunately he couldn't be here.
You've done a great job filling in his footsteps. Thank you, Guru. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Shitala. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Hare Baba.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Baba.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Okay. And thank you to Buddhimanta Prabhu for his very nice class. So as I mentioned, my father Ambrish Prabhuji is not here today. Now it's getting to 7 p.m. So what we'll do is we'll just sing Jara Madhava, and then we'll do Maharaj Please Us, and then we'll end the program there. And hopefully from next week he'll be in New Zealand, so everything should be fine then. So I'll sing Jara Madhava, and if everyone could repeat after me with your mics muted, that would be great. Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajana Ranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajana Ranjana Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Hare Krishna. So whose turn is it to sing Maharaj Please Us today? Navina's put her hand up. Brilliant. Okay. Navina, take it away. Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, Maharaj, please hear us.
Maharaj, Maharaj, please hear us.
We have learned some real good stuff.
We have learned some real good stuff.
Maharaj, we have learned one thing.
Maharaj, we have learned one thing.
And today for you we will sing.
And today for you we will sing.
If our room is clean,
If our room is clean,
then our mind is clean.
then our mind is clean.
If our mind is clean,
If our mind is clean,
we can do anything.
we can do anything.
If our room is dirty,
If our room is dirty,
and so are we.
then so are we.
And if we are dirty,
And if we are dirty,
we're not happy.
we're not happy.
Wasting time
Wasting time
is the greatest crime.
is the greatest crime.
Wasted time
Because wasted time
means a wasted mind.
means a wasted mind.
So best use your time
So best is your time
when you're in your prime.
when you're in your prime.
And your whole life
And your whole life
will be sublime.
will be sublime.
If your wealth is gone,
If your wealth is gone,
then there's nothing wrong.
then there is nothing wrong.
But if your health is gone,
If your health is gone,
that's a different song.
that's a different song.
But if your character dies,
But if your character dies,
then the world will cry.
then the world will cry.
Only saintly behavior,
Only saintly behavior,
that's humanity die.
that's humanity thrive.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
We must always remember Krishna
We must always remember Krishna
and never forget him too.
and never forget him too.
But how are we to practice this with so many things to do?
But how are we to practice this with so many things to do?
That is the greatest question.
That is the greatest question.
And here is the greatest clue.
And here is the greatest clue.
You must learn to work so nicely that Krishna remembers you.
You must work so nicely that Krishna remembers you.
So listen very closely
So listen very closely
and make your thinking sharp.
and make your thinking sharp.
Let's learn how we can live and work so Krishna won't depart.
Let's learn how we can live and work so Krishna won't depart.
If something's due tomorrow,
And something's due tomorrow.
finish it today.
Finish it today.
And whatever's due today,
And whatever's due today,
do it now, don't delay.
do it now, don't delay.
Your friends might be lazy
If your friends might be lazy
or doing bad things.
or doing bad things,
But if you think again,
but you think again,
don't follow them,
don't follow them,
and you will win the end.
and you will win the end.
Whatever work we given,
Whatever what is given,
we do our really best.
we do our very best.
We only live with what we need and give Krishna the rest.
We only live with what we need and give Krishna the rest.
It's how to live, to work, and to play. If you learn to live this way, we'll take care every day.
This is how to live, to work and to play. To learn to live this way, we'll sing Krishna every day.
And when our time is up, he'll take us off our path. We sing and dance with him with our hearts full of love.
And when our time is up, he'll take us up above. We sing and dance with him with a heart full of love.
To chant Krishna's names, his glory and his fame is the only way this world will ever become same.
To call Krishna's name, his glories and his name is the only way this world will ever become seen.
Now please ask this greatest question.
Now please ask this greatest question
And find this greatest clue.
and find this greatest clue.
You can only remember Krishna
You can only remember Krishna
if Krishna remembers you.
if Krishna remembers you.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai.
Goswami Maharaj Gurudev ki Jai.
Jai.
Prananandi Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol. Namaste, Krishna Sahib.
Okay, thank you all very much once again for participating in today's program. So hopefully we'll all meet next week, as my dad says, same place, same time. And once again, Hare Krishna, and we'll see you next week. Hare Bol.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Well
Hare
done, Krishna
Krishna.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.